And repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. So good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome back. We're almost through the holiday season. Anyone ever come here and been really mean to somebody here ever?
In my head, maybe.
Okay. Thank you. You can always come and Amy for honesty. Thank you, Amy. She said in her head if you didn't hear her. I'm going to ask again. Anyone ever come here and been really mean to somebody here? Look around the room. You see any hands up? Why not? While here?
My daughter, but she
I-
deserved it.
I knew where that was going when I saw your hand. But while you were here.
No, no.
Okay, I mean while you were here. We've all been mean to people outside of here. Yes. But we're never mean to people while we're here. Why? Why not?
I think we just agree that this is a safe place and we'll all be nice and treat each other.
Okay.
Social contract. This is a place of peace.
Social contact, construct. What else? And the last thing you said is really important when I get to what I'm going to say, because you said this is a place of peace, right?
Everyone's on their best behavior.
Everyone's on their best behavior, right? What else? Why? The question, if you just walked in, was I said, show of hands, how many of you have ever been mean to people while you're here? While you're here. And no hands went up. So now I'm just inquiring as to why. Anyone else want to play? Yeah.
No one wants to be the jerk in the Buddhist temple.
No one wants to be the jerk in the Buddhist temple. I mean, that's obvious, right? Yeah. Plus, I already kind of get to play that role.
Isn't Buddha nature?
Isn't Buddha nature? All right. We could do this all day, probably. Now, how many of you have ever been mean to people outside of the temple? This is where you raise your hand. Yeah. All right. So, Tom said this is a place of peace. Right? And yes, I get it. And even that's a really wonderful thing to look at, which is in your head, maybe, right? So you've had thoughts about being mean or wanting to be mean to somebody, but you chose not to. How many times do we have thoughts out there about wanting to be mean to people and we choose not to? Or do all of the things that everybody just rattled off, which is, oh, it's a Buddhist temple, I don't want to be a jerk in the Buddhist temple, social, construct, all these things, those kind of fade away and we somehow get this idea like, okay, it's fine to be a jerk to people outside a temple, right? This is the problem. And it's something that literally just popped into my head as I was doing my offering. So clearly I've spent a lot of time thinking through this. But this is the problem in our daily life is that, yes, this is a place of peace, but don't we want the same thing out there? We want that to be a place of peace. Now, the default answer is, well, out there, everybody's mean, so I can just be mean also, or everybody's being a jerk to me, so I can be a jerk to them, or whatever excuses we want to make as to why we think it's okay to be a mean jerk outside of the temple. And so my question, and really for exploration, to challenge all of us, is to ask ourselves, well, if I can come here and even when I want to be mean, potentially be nice to people, if I can come here and not be a jerk to people, then is it really that much different out there? Because I promise you, and I know most of you in this room, or a lot of you in this room, the people out there that kind of piss you off and make you angry and do all the things you don't like, they're sitting right here in this room. The people in this room are not free from those things that make you angry all day long. Those people are here. They're in front of you, they're next to you, they're behind you, they are you. Right? And I don't mean that metaphorically, I mean literally, you are the one who makes somebody angry. And you are the one that somebody's a jerk to. And you are the one that is a jerk to somebody else. Right? We are not free from that. So, again, to kind of wrap this up before we sit, is to really ponder that if you can go to a place, I mean, this is just a place. You know, we give it meaning, right? We call it a Buddhist temple. We put Buddhist statues up. We create a nice, safe environment, right? But it's still just a place. And everywhere else we go is just a place. Yeah.
I think that here the response from people is a kind response when you're out in the world and you're trying to be good natured and send out that kind vibe. So often, and especially around Christmas, it's amazing. It's so nasty.
Yes, it is. And I'm not talking to the people that aren't here, I'm talking to the people that are here. And so the challenge is when you send out kindness into the world and it's met with nastiness, which it will be your whole life, the challenge is back on you to continue to practice compassion. Because the people who are being mean and angry and nasty towards you, they need compassion more than anything. Right? And I know you didn't say it this way because you would, I'm sure, admit very quickly that we have all been that person at times as well. And in those moments, what do we need? We don't need somebody angry yelling back at us. We need the compassion back to us. Because that's really one of the only things that's going to help settle our mind and heart as to why we're angry to begin with anyways. So the anger that we get back, which we will today, I mean, it's like not even noon yet. Right? You'll be met with a lot of resistance and anger today. And when that happens, say, okay, I'm going to continue to pour out compassion because that's what these people need. Right? So something to ponder. But I do thank you all for being nice when you come here. It makes it much more pleasant. You know, it'd be kind of funny if it wasn't that way. So good job, Amy. I'm very proud of you for it's not easy, right?
Stifling it. Yeah.
It's not easy because even in a place like this, we're met with personalities and conflicts and resistance and people that annoy us and frustrate us and challenge us and don't do what we want them to do. And
I'm not one with a dog.
you're right, exactly. Maybe there's some like, why does this lady keep bringing her dog? You know, because she loves her dog. We love her too. So that's good. All right, so we're going to sit. I've wasted enough time talking. We'll start with the meditation practice. For those who are new, maybe sitting for the first time, a couple things to tell you. Nothing's going to happen to you. Right? Not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. Right? The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice. When you don't ask yourself, is this working? Is it not working? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, outside the room. This is life. Life is filled with chaos in this practice and learning to get quiet and still within all the chaos. Most important, don't judge your practice. We judge things all day long, what we look like, what we wear, what we eat. We're constantly in these judgment modes. And so this practice is learning just to get quiet and still. I'll guide us as we begin. Posture, if you're on the cushions, it helps. Slide into the front third. Pushing the stomach forward allows the back to straighten slightly. Shoulders are relaxed. Hands can be on the knees or in the lap, whatever's comfortable. From the chairs or benches, also just trying to sit up straight. I will guide us as we begin. We'll settle into a little bit of silence and be done in about 6 hours. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. And as the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Lost in thought. Return to breath. Keeping the mind alert. Aware of each sound. Each thought. Each physical sensation. Yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet. Wanting nothing but to sit and breathe. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. Now, most important with the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize whoever you feel now, it's quiet, calm, still, or busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit, the hands across the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awaken. He was a human being no different than anyone in this room who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means very simply for all of us in this room, regardless of where we come from or what we believe in or where we think we're going, our whole life is filled with things that happen. We react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's what we get. Now, most people respond to the last 20 minutes quietly, peacefully, still. The question is, how do you respond to everything else that happens throughout your day? And all we're working on is closing the gap where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. This practice is not easy. It's not necessarily fun. Meditation is not an escape, as often people think it is. It's direct perception into the present moment. And sometimes that present moment is not pleasant. If your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, meditation doesn't fix that. Often people use meditation as something to run to because their life is filled with chaos. If you do that, you'll be running to something your entire life. Meditation helps you become aware of what you think and what you say and what you do, which is actually what created a life that is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess. So this practice slows you down and allows you to take time and look at your actions. This is your karma. What you think and what you say and what you do, because that creates the world around you. It is very easy to point fingers and blame others and say it's all their fault. The challenge in the practice is to practice compassion when the world doesn't do what we want it to do, which is pretty much every moment of your entire life. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. Sitting, breathing, learning to be kind to yourself and everybody else you encounter all day long. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything and everyone around us, life gets simpler. But it takes time. That's why it's called a practice. It's not a 6-week course. It's not something you do for 3 months and all of a sudden everything gets better. Every day of your life, the world is going to work in ways that you don't like it. It's just what happens. Just because you meditate and look at Buddhist teachings doesn't change that or fix that. It allows you to be with things as they are and take care of your mind, your heart, your reaction to the world. So, and by having all of us here this morning and all the times and days that we are here, it is proof that people can actually be nice to each other, even when they don't want to be, which is phenomenal. So now you just have to go do that. We'll just start with the next 3 hours. Just try to go out there the next 3 hours and don't be mean to people. See if you can do that. So as always, I'd rather just stop there and open up to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything that's on your mind. go from there. Yeah.
One of the things I've been noticing, trying to practice at home, and I just noticed it today too, is that sometimes when I'm sitting and trying to focus on my breathing or just notice my breathing, it's like my mind suddenly takes over and it sort of treats it like, oh, this is a great time to plan some stuff. Without realizing it. You know, I hear your voice or something, I'm like, oh, I'm doing my shopping list. I'm, working out this thing that's happening next week, and I try to breathe, and then it just kind of, so do you have any suggestions for how to?
I do, but we only have like 20 minutes left, so I'll narrow them down. Yes, absolutely. Your mind is always going to wander and race. Let me start with this. Who here has seen the Mr. Rogers movie? Incredible film. If you haven't seen it, please go see it. It's such a brilliant film. And, I don't know too much about his life, although I'm now kind of obsessed with him and want to learn more about his actual life. But it's such a brilliant film, and I won't say too much about it, but I'm convinced that the guy was like, whether he knew it or not, which always happens, I think, with a lot of religious folks, because I'm pretty sure he was pretty devout or, Christian or Catholic, right? Somebody know? Anybody know? There you go. So he was a religious dude, right? And I see this a lot with people who actually are devout with their religious faith. What they're practicing and the way they live their life, everything I've learned about Buddhism is what they do. And so what I was going to say was I was convinced he was like this closet Buddhist or following the teachings of the Buddha. He just was living like a really beautiful, pure life, as a human, right? And still, as his wife points out, a human. And but there's a scene in that movie where, try to sum it up and put it into context, someone calls him and he makes it very clear to the person that he's talking to, I think on the phone and in person, that the only thing that matters at that moment, that the most important thing at that moment is that person he's talking to, right? Us Buddhists call that mindfulness, right? Some people just call it being a good person, right? But we have to put some phrase around it and make it something we want to practice. So the practice of mindfulness starts not just in meditation, and I will come back to your question at some point, probably. But what you're really asking is, how do you stay present with people and places and things in your life? Because you, like the rest of us in this room, there's probably 70 people in here. How many of you stay focused on your breath for 20 minutes? Nobody, right? Everyone's mind wandered. Now, when you're in a conversation with somebody, can you actually pay attention to them? When you're eating, can you actually just eat? When you're walking, can you actually just walk? When you're brushing your teeth, can you actually just brush your teeth? Or are you doing what you just described, which is planning your entire life, or day at least, right? So one thing I suggest is to actually, and I don't like meditation as like a gaining idea or improving it, but one thing you can do to practice learning to stay more present and mindful with what's actually happening is do it in other areas of your life. Because if your mind is scattered all day long, then just because you physically stopped and sat down, that doesn't change it. Now you're just not moving while your mind is a scattered mess, planning everything, right? Make sense so far?
Yeah.
So the other thing I'll say is, this practice, as I started saying, your mind is always going to race, okay? So what we're working on is breath in, breath out. And the Buddha taught in Anapanasati Sutta, he said, breathing in and taking a short breath, know you're taking a short breath. Breathing out, taking a long breath, know you're taking a long breath. Become aware of sensation of breath. That's it. So what I'm working on as a practitioner, breath in, breath out. Thought arises, recognize it, hunger. Release that thought back to the breath. Breath in, breath out. Next thought, there's hunger again. Recognize it, release it back to the breath. So it's a constant recognition of thoughts and coming back to the present moment of sensation of breath. What I don't want to do, thought arises, hunger. I'm hungry. What do I want to eat? I want a burrito. I'm going to go to Pokies. I want chips. I want sauce. I want cheese. Next thing you know, from one single thought of hunger, I'm thinking about a burrito I want to eat. And now I'm planning the next 45 minutes of my day, right? Don't do that. Try to come back to present moments. Another trick you can use is keep your thoughts in the room. My hands are cold. My feet are cold, right? The person next to me breathes funny. What is on the wall, right? Be present with things that are remotely close to right here. Not that person breathes funny. I remember when I was 7, somebody was breathing funny. Right? But try to keep it present. And lastly, if I haven't made it clear, don't ever expect the mind to stop racing. But try to not let the stories take 20 minutes of your meditation practice. Because then, I'm glad you planned your day, right? But you could have stayed home and done that, right? So that's the practice. Is that somewhat helpful?
Very, very. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, thanks for asking, because everybody else in the room was probably wondering something similar. Yeah. Other thoughts, questions? Yeah.
I thought about kindness, going along with what you first mentioned. When you care about something very dearly, let's say politically, and then
And let's say what?
politically, and
I don't, either I didn't hear it or I don't understand that word, or both.
Politically.
Oh, politically. Oh, yeah, okay, I didn't hear that. Sorry, continue.
That's okay. And it's very easy for me to get sort of inflamed and upset about views that are very different
Mm-hmm.
than that. And I was wondering how you see maintaining that mindful stance and kindness
Yeah.
when it comes to that.
It's tough, especially when all of your views are correct, isn't it? That makes it really hard. Like, it must be really difficult to roam around and have all the answers and all the correct views about everything that you mentioned and didn't mention. It must be really tough to live that way, to know that you're correct and everybody who disagrees with you is wrong. And that was about 30 years of my life. That was living hell. That was torture. It's not fun to try to convince everybody that you're right. It's not fun to have to try to defend and protect your ego and your views. It's not fun to argue with people all day long and hate them because they don't agree with you. Now, I'll say this now, there's a lot of disgusting things in this world. You look at, social justice issues, things like that, actively engage with them. Buddhist practice is not about sitting still and doing nothing. But when you engage with people who have different views, you ever been in an argument with somebody? When you're in an argument, do you think you're right? What do you think they think? They're right. Which sucks, because they're clearly wrong. So recognize that if you're going to engage with people who have different views, I don't care if it's, over what TV show to watch. It doesn't, again, kind of in a similar vein to the earlier question, we often like complicate, I don't know how to explain this. We make things so like Buddhist or meditative. There are things that are going to happen all day today that you disagree with that have nothing to do with like the serious issues you're probably talking about, right? Someone's going to make your latte the wrong way. Someone's going to take too long checking out in the grocery store line. Someone is going to turn in front of you in traffic when you didn't want them to, right? Someone's going to cut you off when you're trying to pull into the gas station and go down the wrong way when clearly you needed that spot because of the side that your gas tank is on, right? When those things happen, try not to be angry at them. Try to have compassion for them and try to understand that they're also doing what they want and what they think is right. And who are we to try to tell everybody else that they're wrong? You don't have to agree with people, but have compassion for them. Thich Nhat Hanh would say, nirvana, freedom from suffering, is freedom from views. And I remind myself that every single day, and I say it in here probably every third week. Because it reminds us that we are clearly, for me when I heard that, what it meant to me was that I'm going to have views my entire life. Always. You all have views right now sitting there. I agree with what he's saying. I disagree with what he's saying. But what about this? But what about that? Right? We can justify everything. When we have our views, recognize that every human being in the world also has their views. And to tie it together in the same theme, and I hate to shock all of you in this room and ruin the niceness that everybody is behaving towards each other with right now, I promise you people in this room do not have the same, whatever that word was that you said. Their views in this room are different than yours. And you know what? They're also at a Buddhist temple. Their religious views, their political views, all of their views of the people in this room are very different. Yet it's amazing you can all still get along. Fascinating. The silence helps. There's reasons I do 90% of the talking in this class. But it shows us that it's possible to engage with and hug and be kind and care for and sweep and love a place that the people in it, they don't view the world the way you do. I guarantee it. So these things are not easy, but living the other way of, again, trying to prove you're right and everybody else is wrong, really kind of sucks. And it just causes yourself to be angry and miserable. And when you're angry and miserable, you're not doing any good for anyone. So, good luck. Not an easy practice. But it really is about having, to kind of wrap that thought up, about having compassion. When people bring harm to others, just think about when we brought harm to somebody. If we brought harm to somebody, that means we are suffering. If we're not suffering, we're probably not going to bring harm to others. So when others do things that cause harm to us or to those we know and love, understand that they probably too are suffering. And they need all the love and compassion in the world. They don't need your anger. Your anger is just going to make it worse. So, other thoughts, questions? Yeah.
So I spent Christmas with my millennial age children who are wonderful people and I love them so much. They're not present, they're always on their phone, they're always looking to get something, whatever. And I became really being frustrated, but I also was trying to think, what is a way, other than a few times I sort of called them out on it a little bit. I said, I feel like you're not present here with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wonder if you have any strategies for how to, no.
You already see my head shaking now, huh? Yeah. It's a great question. I think it's a tough one. There's a couple ways to look at it. To the kids who are always staring at their phones, and to those who, like I work with college kids a lot. And when I tell them that I went to college without a cell phone, it's like mind-blowing to them, right? The interesting thing, and I'm not a fan of the world being stuck on their phones all day long at all, so I'll just say that. But the interesting thing about, and even in the way you phrased it, you said they're not present. They actually are present. They're just present with their phones and not you, which is what we all do a lot. Ever talk to somebody and they're just like staring at their phone? Or somebody's talking to you and you're staring at your phone? You know, we've all been there. So unfortunately, I think in younger generations, you know, 2-year-olds are in the back of the car with the screen in front of them. Why? So they can actually watch that and be present with that. So we're actually teaching children, which is very, I know there's a lot of research around this and how bad it is. And how's that for a scientific term? How bad it is to engage young children and those who are growing up just staring at screens all day long. It's not healthy. But the ironic thing about it is it's actually keeping them present with something. I mean, that's why a parent gives. Now, this is what I was going to say earlier. To kind of continue that thought. It's interesting. So my generation, same. I didn't grow up with cell phones, right? I remember 7th grade when I first got a pager, and I thought that was the coolest thing in the world until I realized people could find me, and I didn't like it. But you know, and my brother said this. My mom said a similar comment about, you know, the kids or grandkids always on their phones, or she was talking about being at the airport and everybody's staring at the phones. And my brother said, well, when you were younger and you were at the airport, or even today, what was everybody staring at? A book. So is it really that different? Possibly because of the content and what it does to us. Yes, again, I'm not a fan of phones. But what I'm trying to point out is they are just doing what they've been conditioned to do, which is be present with the thing that is constantly feeding them information. This is the sad part. That we all can work on and try to model and try to embody and not be that person. I'm bad at it as well. I don't have answers for you other than to maybe look at it in different ways, which is that's just what they're used to doing. It's not even personal. You know, I sat there at Thanksgiving with my niece and nephews and my brother and all of us sitting in the room around the TV, everybody with their phone in their hand, everybody relatively silent, chiming in once in a while saying, look at this. That's just what everybody does. We are not used to seeing it, and we don't like it because we feel they're not present with us, right? Sadly, that's kind of what they know. And we're a long ways from changing that. And we're not headed in a direction to change that. We're actually making it worse. You know, hang on, I gotta see what time it is. Right? Definitely not an answer. It sucks. It's not fun. But people don't dialogue the way they used to. They don't communicate the way they used to. They aren't on time the way they used to. And so I think what I learned from Buddhist teachings is to understand constructs, which is we all come to a Buddhist temple to try to be, you know, quiet and calm and peaceful or whatever and nice to each other. And the construct for a 15-year-old is to live their life through their phone. And unless you take them away from them, that's not going to change anytime soon. So it's almost like we have to adjust to what is that, right? The kids showing grandma or grandpa, hey, look, this is what I'm looking at on my phone when it's appropriate, right? So trying to engage with that stuff and not just seeing it as wrong. Because if you see it as wrong, it's always going to be wrong. It's all they know. Yeah. Tough, yeah.
Yeah, there was a short video clip that it was a recital, you know, some 6-year-old girls doing their little dance and everything else. And the camera pans slowly into the audience and everybody has a phone or an iPad in front of their face. They're all experiencing the event through their device.
Right. It's just what people do.
It's really sad, you know.
But here's the thing, and I'll kind of close on this thought. Why is that? And I really want you to think about this, all of us, because you two are bringing it up, which is great, because anyone here who's over whatever age, we've all dealt with this, right? But you say it's really sad. Why? That's what they know. They're filming it, they're recording it, they're watching it. They'll probably never see it again on their phone, but they're still live, right? She's how old? How old are you?
12.
12. How much of you, do you have? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're 12. Mom with 12-year-old daughter. Let me try to make a point. If you're at a concert, right, or whatever, and you see people filming it, right? Do you think that's sad?
No,
No. Why not?
because it's kind of what everyone does now.
It's what everyone does now, right? Why is that sad to us? This is my point. I want us all, to me, Buddhist practice is about seeing things from so many different angles and lenses. Because as I alluded to earlier, we think our view is what?
Right.
Correct and right. And so we think if people are at a recital and filming it, that it's wrong. We think when family gathers and everybody's staring at their phone, right? We think it's not present and wrong. That's all you know. Correct?
Correct.
That's it. We don't have time to get into the part that maybe is sad that that's all they know, but that's a lot deeper rooted in stuff that we can't cover here in 2 minutes, right? But that's what kids know these days. That's what they use to communicate, to express themselves, right? I mean, you could post a photo of a flower and like 4,000 people will love it. And we think that's sad. And they think that's how they connect. To me, it's not about judging them and thinking they're wrong for doing that. It's about understanding how they communicate with each other. That's just how kids communicate these days. You might not like it. You didn't grow up that way. I didn't grow up that way. But that's what they do. And if we're trying to get, I'm not open here at all, am I? If we're trying to,
Today's a no phone day, so
it's a no phone day, right? So how we parent around those things, which again, I'm way out of time for that stuff, is important also. But it's understanding that most of her life is through the phone. And then there's a no phone day, which teaches us that we can live without it. But we have to actually set a rule that says today, no phone. That's just what they grow up with.
for both of us.
For both of us, thank you.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, I had the app that told you how many hours you actually use your phone.
Yeah.
Because a buddy told me about it. I deleted the app because I didn't want to see it. So, I'm guilty as much as my whole world runs through this thing, right? Most of you are all here because of this thing. So start to change the way we view things a little bit. And at least maybe we won't get so frustrated at it. Church bells. We'll join palms. Thanks for playing along. As we join palms, may the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to those who need it most. May they all be at peace. May we all be at peace and free from suffering.